Chapter 10. Nebulon.
When Zach had taken the job as waiter at the Tarkton restaurant, it had purely been something to do. Life had become dull, and drifting from place to place had lost its appeal. Unlike Delta 4B, there were days and nights on Delta 2. They were still called sequences, and Zach had lost track of how many he'd wasted. Flash, an acquaintance of Zach's, worked at the Tarkton restaurant as a waiter. There were always vacancies for good waiters. No experience or qualifications were necessary. The owner only required that he liked them, and that the customers liked them. He was apparently quite strange. There had been no interview or formal introduction. In fact, there had been no introduction at all. Zach just started working and was shown the ropes by Flash. 10 sequences later, he was still working there. But the wanderer in him tugged at his sleeve. He hadn't found out yet if he'd made the grade, nor did he care. The owner certainly didn't. He'd never made an appearance, and Zach had never met him.
I don't know if this job is for me,
he mentioned to Flash.
It's not that I don't like the place or the people. Tarkton has a great atmosphere, and the employees are all friendly enough. You've been a good friend as well, and I appreciate you giving me something to do. Hell, I don't know if I'm doing what's expected of me, and I haven't as much as seen who I'm working for.
Oh yes, you have.
Flash was amused, and Zach's interest sparked. Zach's first thought was that Flash was the owner, but no, that couldn't be. He was a likable fellow, but not up to being a restaurant owner. Also, Flash would never have been able to hide that from him. Curiously, Zach probed Flash mentally. Zach was seldom surprised. His state of mind allowed him to take events casually. Unexpected events appeared to have a controlled response. Anyone who didn't know him could mistakenly consider him impassive. In this instance, however, Zach was genuinely surprised and unable to show what he perceived telepathically.
Nebulon is happy with your performance. He told me that you're an asset to the Tarkton restaurant.
Really?
Yes, he wants to see you when we're open 3 sequences from now.
Who is he, Flash?
Zach was convincing. He had to be. Flash would find it strange otherwise.
Remember the old man you served at table 3 just before closing?
Not the tramp that had no credits.
That's the one. You didn't have to pay his bill. You could have thrown him out. Why didn't you?
There was something about him that I liked. I thought how easily it could have been me, with the roles reversed. It was all I could do.
The next few sequences went quickly. Zach found new interest in the work and couldn't help feeling curious about meeting the mysterious owner, the man called Nebulon. Zach and Flash made their way to work. The Tarkton restaurant, like most entertainment establishments, was a dismal place before opening its doors for business. Its period of disuse left it devoid of character. Flash set about preparing the tables with other staff, while Zach proceeded to the office he'd come to know as Nebulon's. Previously, it had always been closed, but on this occasion, the door was open. Somehow, it seemed more natural that way. Zach walked in apprehensively. Why he felt that way, he wasn't sure. Perhaps it was the protracted anticipation spent wondering about the owner, or was there something else? Nebulon sat behind his desk and glanced up as Zach entered. Zach realized too late that he should have knocked. He'd never been particularly good with the formalities of accepted work behavior.
That's quite all right, son.
Nebulon smiled.
No one bothers around here, and quite honestly, I prefer it that way.
He paused for a moment, assessing the younger man.
Good sequence to you, Zack.
Zack couldn't help smiling back at the old man. Nebulon's cheerful disposition was contagious. Zack recognized the face of the seemingly pitiful tramp he'd served. Rags were replaced by elegant attire, better fitting a man of his position. Strangely though, the rags had served him just as well. Even the absence of dirt now evident didn't make the earlier condition seem out of place. Nebulon was an old man by any standard, but a warmth from within shone through his aging features. His sparse grey hair was neatly combed, giving further contrast to his previous unkempt appearance. There was, of course, something else which interested Zack more. Nebulon's opening remark confirmed Nebulon too was telepathic.
Good sequence, sir.
Zack wasn't at all sure how to handle the situation.
I've not been sure how to handle the situation either.
Nebulon remarked.
I'm an old man and have learned through the bitter experience of losing many good friends that you cannot be too careful. That's why I like to observe the new employees for a while. Please sit down, Zack.
Zack sat down. The old man commanded certain respect. Zack liked him instantly.
You're a fine young man, not without some shortcomings I might add. But I'm very pleased to have you on my staff. To be perfectly honest.
Nebulon smiled slightly, deciding mid-sentence to change the pertinent content of his intended statement.
Perfectly honest is what we should be in our state of mind.
Zack considered his shortcomings, but what was Nebulon referring to? Why did Nebulon use the words should be when referring to being honest with one another? More curiously, why were the answers not available in Nebulon's thoughts? The old man was aware of Zack's questions and everything else in his consciousness. That much was clear. But the information Zack sought remained unavailable in Nebulon's mind. Normally, to obtain an answer would simply require a verbal or mental question. The individual would automatically summon the correct data from his memory. Even if the individual wished to conceal the answer by stating it differently, valid information providing the individual possessed the knowledge had always been available to Zack. Zack's thoughts, however, were exposed. It was unnerving. They were perceived by Nebulon as openly as Nebulon's office door. Nebulon continued.
Yes, to be perfectly honest, my first impression of you was that I should let you go. Your outgoing nature and desire for admiration could be detrimental. In this society, it is imperative that our mental abilities remain hidden. With your volume of mental presence, both of us are potentially at risk. You inherently attract attention to yourself.
Zack listened, as he should have done to Zentran much earlier in his life. The respect the old man commanded brought about a change in his receptiveness. Although Nebulon's assessment cut into his pride, he couldn't fault it. He knew also that he'd moved away from Delta 4B to ensure Zentran's safety. Nebulon brought the danger of his extrovert nature home to him more acutely than before. So at this time and place in his life, the realization matured him as his mind lay open like a public manuscript with large bold print for the old man to read.
However, watching you go about your work, I grew to appreciate your honor in interchanging with fellow men. The extent of your abilities make you vulnerable, which became my concern. Therefore, I would like you to continue here so I can teach you something you really need to know. Your friend Zentran is also in danger.
You know about Zentran?
You thought of him earlier.
Nebulon's thoughts remained obscured, while Zack's still flowed unhindered to the old man. Zack had never felt at such a disadvantage.
To answer your unspoken question, I have trained my mind to process only those thoughts that I'm willing to reveal and hold the rest behind a screen. This requires concentration and has side effects. It shouldn't be necessary to conceal our thoughts, as beings like us don't have anything to hide. Screening is self-limiting and can reduce ability. However, with the evil that seeks us out, we need to safeguard ourselves.
Can the council probe our minds?
There is only one left in the council that I know of that has mental abilities. He is reputed to be extremely strong. But don't discount the synthetic undercover agents. They are machines, but they have some electronic method of probing.
Zentran calls them lookalikes.
Interesting observation. There are probably more like us out there somewhere. They would be on our side. I haven't met anyone for considerable time that had any notable ability. Those I knew have been arrested and never heard of again. You're an anomaly. Zentran too. Your power dwarfs all others I've known. Are there any more like you?
Zack was suddenly afraid. He thought about Fora, who was so powerful that she was scared to use her ability. What if Nebulon was a council agent? He tried to think of nothing.
Tell me about yourself, sir. How did you come to be mentally aware?
Nebulon didn't answer for a while, knowing Zack's concern.
It's all right, son. I understand your alarm, as I've not been without my own misgivings. There were once many like us in the Namcon Confederation. I remember as a child having at least 15 friends who had strong mental ability. Some of them, like myself, were telepathic. Some of them could move physical objects around, and others could do both. There were a few who could move outside of their bodies and had their perceptions available to them directly, not via their bodies. As I'm sure you know, what we are and what we consist of is not what is generally understood. Our bodies, including the brain, are not what we are. They are simply a piece of genetic equipment we use to operate in this crazy illusion we call the material universe. However much we become attached to them, after a finite number of sun revolutions, they become disposable.
Yes, I do understand these things,
ventured Zack, not quite sure of his position. He liked the old man, but there was something he could not quite put his finger on.
Did you develop your power as a child, or did you always have your present ability?
Nebulon seemed happy to confide in Zack.
It was a long time ago, but as far as I can remember, I was always a strong telepath. But as I grew older, I noticed that I could move outside my body, and over a period of time, developed this ability as well.
So you can't actually move matter and control energy?
No, that has never been my ability, but I understand it is yours, and I might add to your detriment. It is the one that the Council seeks out above all others.
Zack found himself more certain of Nebulon, and in turn, his thirst for knowledge in this unexplored region started to surface.
What do you call this ability to move outside your body, and how is it done?
The activity has been called by many names throughout the ages, most popular probably being that of astral traveling. Others call it spirit walking, remote viewing, or going exterior. It concerns that part of you which in essence is you, and which you and your friend Zentran have spent so much time developing. This you is not attached to your body and goes by many names. The soul, the spirit, even ghost and poltergeist are the same thing, but for having lost their bodies unexpectedly. Moving outside of one's body needs no effort, but requires that you let go of the common agreement that you have to be attached. Without the fear that sometimes sets in, understand what you are doing. Simplicity denies the superior condition to most. Truth is simple, but eludes us by our confounded love of making things complicated, until we are caught in a labyrinth that we designed ourselves.
The new data slotted into empty spaces in Zach's understanding that he did not know existed, blending with what he already knew. Fresh ideas of existence came to be, and his broadened concepts gave him a heightened sense of well-being. Nagging curiosity regarding his unknown past came once more to his attention. Zentran had tried to help him remember, but they'd never been successful in unlocking his previous lives. The only glimpse of an earlier existence had been the child in the stands of a gladiator arena. The still picture he and Zentran had acquired from the cars. Dichotomies of mystery and understanding surrounded what seemed to be a memory. Why had Zentran thought the scene was of the future? He knew he was the child in a previous life.
Can you remember your former lifetimes, sir?
Nebulon was quiet for a while.
There are times when I think I remember, but I have trouble distinguishing what is real from imaginary, and therefore I have not pursued it. There were once teachers who could unlock this riddle, but they are gone and their expertise went with them. The knowledge has long since been lost.
Zach's disappointment showed. For some obscure reason, he knew his occluded memory held data vital to the inhabitants of Delta 4b. That realization had come through with the still picture. If anyone could find a way through the block to his previous lives, Zentran would. He was pretty sure of that. Nebulon looked down, then lifted his gaze slowly to meet Zach's. He looked tired.
That's enough for now. Be about your duties and we can talk again another sequence.